We're live across the platforms that we're live on, soon to be live on the platforms that we're not yet live on. This is the Propaganda Report. I am Brad Binkley. Hope everybody's doing well this early morning or late evening, depending on which coast you are on. We're now live on all of the platforms that we're live on. Okay, Commies target school boards, YahNazi, and the lab leak story agenda, in my opinion anyway. Good morning again. This is Brad Binkley, Propaganda Report. It's about, what time is it? 5:50 or so on the East Coast, around 2:50 on the West Coast. If you're watching this live right now at those times, then we are in fact live. If you're watching this live at a later point in the day, and it appears to be live, it is not in fact live if you're watching it around 12 or 1, because I am going to restream it later, because you can do that on StreamYard to where it appears to be live, because I'm testing out different times of day to do the show. So I apologize if you're watching later. It's not actually live. But now we're having a live show. What's up, Denver, in the chats? Good to see you. As always, with such great information, too. You always got such great information. I appreciate that. And so, before we dive in, I do want to say, I hate doing this. If you want to help support the show financially, you can do super chats. You can do Rockfin tips. You can make a one-time or recurring donation at tinyurl.com/propshow. Or you can join the Propaganda Report Patreon at patreon.com/Propaganda Report. I can't continue to do the show without y'all's support, and I'm grateful for everything y'all have continued to allow me to do. I appreciate it more than I could ever express. You can also help by leaving a 5-star review, which helps the show up higher on the search engines, and leave a comment that warms my heart and keeps me motivated. With that said, let's dive into some of the things I want to talk about today. The commies are coming for your school boards. That's the top story, in my opinion. While many of us are so focused on the show that Trump is putting on the national stage, and he's putting on quite a show, and there's no doubt about that. He's even doing many things that even his harshest critics in the alternative media have given him some credit for, even if begrudgingly. However, while the nation is focused on his actions on this national scale, as I have mentioned quite often, the commies are still coming for you in your towns. Your school boards specifically, I have noticed that they are targeting in February. And they're hoping that you're not paying attention so that they can just sweep in and push their message and bully whoever they want to bully without any opposition to it. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about here. In Georgia, as you see here on this, so I should tell you what this site is first. Hold on, I got the wrong site up there. So, you may or may not be familiar with Mobilize. What is that site? Mobilize.us is what it's called, which is a platform that is used by Democrat candidates and progressive organizations to organize, to recruit, and to mobilize volunteers for activist trainings, protests, to get out the vote. This is where the commies get together. This is where I find all of the opportunities to go do man on the street stuff. And this is where all of the Georgia Democrat Party overall, and all of the county Democrat parties, when you go click on the events that they have on their websites, they all direct you to a mobilize.us website. All of them. And if you want to stay informed on what the commies are doing in your locale, mobilize.us in your area is a good place to start. Because this is seriously what I track to find out what's going on. And you can see on the site here that in February, They're targeting the public school board meetings. Right here, Public School Strong, Cobb County School Board Meeting. I don't know what that one means, but that looks like PSS. Public School Strong, that's another organizing school. A Public School Strong Atlanta School Board Meeting. Decatur, City of Decatur School Board Meeting. DeKalb School Board Meeting. Fulton County School Board Meeting. Forsyth School Board Meeting. Gwinnett County School Board Meeting. Henry School Board Meeting. Bibb County School Board Meeting. They're everywhere. Here's a Christian nationalist unholy war on democracy film screening. That's actually in Tennessee. I don't know why that one's on here. But the point is that they're organizing to come after the school board meetings in Georgia because I guess that is when they're happening. And if this is going on in your town, what they're trying to do is take over the public comment and bully and pressure. And they're hoping everybody's paying attention to the national stage so that they can be the ones who dictate what happens at these things. And what they say in all of these, here, I'll show you. They all say the same thing. Like, it's pretty funny the way that they describe what it is that they're doing. Can you guys see that on screen very well? You might not be able to. This is how they get their activists who are mind controlled by them. And it's not a huge sect of the population, but they do have enough people who are, I don't want to say radicalized. I would describe it more as foolishly brainwashed by people who they've been led to believe give a rat's ass about them, but are simply using them as activist manpower. It's disgusting. What's up, Tony? Good morning, Mitchell. And here's what it says on all of these events, because they just copy and paste it. It says, join the Georgia Youth Justice Coalition for action in advocating for public education at your DeKalb County School Board meeting, or whatever the county is. Once you sign up, we'll reach out to make sure that you have a buddy to join you and support from our team if you're providing public comment for the first time. That's important. They're going to provide you with a buddy to come tell you what to say during the public comment section, which is what these groups see as valuable time to pressure public schools or wherever it is they're trying to consume the public comment. They want nobody outside of their organization involved in the public comment. And they're going to send a buddy with you to help you overcome your anxieties and to tell you exactly what to say. I've seen this play out with the Georgia Elections Board here in these were at the Capitol in Georgia, in Atlanta. And the first time I saw it, which I found the organization that was getting people together on the Democrat site, the same site, and they sent all these people with a script to go down there and overwhelm the public comment section. And to get clips they could share around and, to do all the social media stuff to make it look like there was one point of view everybody agreed with based on dominating the public comment. And they did the first time I saw it. Absolutely. The second time I witnessed it, they did not, because the voter integrity groups around here recognized what they were doing, and they showed up and dwarfed the number of these communists who were trying to skew reality. And they dominated the public comment section because they were aware of what was going on, and they took action to stop it. And that's my greater point, is they are hoping people aren't paying attention because they're consumed with the national shows going on. Because that way they can more easily do what these groups are all trying to do in school boards. I guarantee you. Now, I don't know if the school board meetings are at the same time in every state, maybe. But check this site in your state and find out if they're doing the same thing, because you have an opportunity to go there and make comment to oppose them. It would actually be funny, and maybe I'll do this now that I think about it, to sign up as one of these people who just wants to go as a Democrat, this group, and get a buddy assigned to me who tells me what to say, and then after getting that little personal training, go up there and say like the exact opposite thing and have like a hidden camera somewhere focused on their expression. I might do that now that I think about that. But I think it's important to stay aware of what's going on at the local level with such a show going on at the national level. Not that we shouldn't pay attention to national news. You guys know what I mean, though. Okay. Denver says, good morning. Denver says that you called the chip out. Oh, talking about, he says, for what it's worth, the NVIDIA chip, which I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, yesterday was due to China's TCU processor. No rare earth, no refined silicon. These chips are made from carbon nanotubes, better conductivity. So that's why, Denver, you're saying that they're able to do AI at a cheaper, it's such a more efficiently and low cost than we are. Which I am going to hit that story a little bit later. Tony says you should do that, get the buddy. And it would be pretty funny, Tony. I'm thinking about it now that I look at this. But yeah, that's how they're I harp on this subject because Indivisible is a group that got propped up after 2016, and they actually did drive a lot of the agenda on the left. And they do, even if they seem stupid in what they say and ridiculous, they do actually control the minds of a lot of people who they exploit and they use as manpower to try and an organizational weapon, as that book always referenced, the Bolshevik strategy, to try and hammer their way into making their agenda reality because they're good at organizing by exploiting what they describe as the Bolshevik man in that book, the ideal personality that it's sad to me, honestly. I can feel bad for a lot of these people that they exploit because they don't really care about them. Like you can see another one of these examples of what they organize to do. This is another one. It says lobbying for gun safety legislation at the Georgia Capitol. And this one goes on every single day during the legislative session. They have these activists go up there and they go, I haven't been to it. I'm going to go because I just found this one earlier while researching the show. Harass people, I'm guessing. And they stand on the steps where they are right there, and they do a bunch of chants, they carry a bunch of signs, and they do a bunch of anti-gun stuff. And they probably make the Georgia Congress people come in and roll their eyes unless they support this cause. But I guarantee you that there's stuff like this going on at your state capitol, perhaps even the capitol in your town, every single day during the legislative session. And if you check this site, you'll probably find it. And if there's nobody doing stuff at your town where the power is held, the government power, then that's the opportunity for you to go in and make your voice heard in a way where you don't have all these crazy people screaming above you. So I know it's not as much fun to look at all this stuff, but I think it is where the fight for this country is, to be honest with you. Because everything to me right now, while it's fun, a lot of it's fun, I got to admit, and I like some of the stuff Trump does. Other stuff, I'm like, I have some questions about. It just feels like, let's give them what they want domestically. Internationally, we'll do what we want because we don't want them to pay attention. We'll give them what they want domestically. That's the strategy. 100 years of propaganda literature. The strategy is, occupy the public domestically with things that they will just, they'll eat up, like red meat, especially at wartime. That way, they are all chewing that up while all the grown-ups do the international policy stuff. It just feels like that, more so than it ever has in my life. And this is something I've studied for over 10 years now, as I'm sure many of you have. And I know times change with the technology and whatnot, but the principles of this propaganda, I don't know, man. It's just, I feel like I'm reading something out of a book from 100 years ago written by Harold Laswell or Edward Bernays. I hope not. I really hope not, because all their stuff pointed to war. I hope not. Nevertheless, moving on to the next story, which is, here's an example. It's related, but also taking a bit of a different direction. This is an example of one of the multiple emails I get every single day from the groups from the Indivisible that organizes. So the main group for the progressives that organize all these things are featured on MSNBC all the time. They call themselves grassroots. They're obviously not grassroots. This is just one crazy email they sent me last night. I'm going to read it to you. I mean, this is how the sausage is made, this stuff right here. Hold on a second. You guys see that? Okay. So it says, "Hey, Brad," it's from Indivisible. "It's Ezra. All last year, I sent bi-weekly-ish newsletter, but I didn't bi-weekly-ish, but I don't think bi-weekly-ish will cut it." So he's not getting his newsletter led, so he's given a reason to give the newsletter in the beginning. So that tells me that despite what they claim in this email, that they're actually not organizing as many people as they would like you to believe. But he says, "Every damn week we have to deal with some fresh hell. And every week we need to remind ourselves and each other. We are not merely victims of national events. We have agency. We have power. We can fight back. There are practical things each of us can do in the real world to limit harm. Fracture MAGA's coalition and build ours. So I'm making a change. From now on, I'm going to try out writing the intros of our bi-weekly newsletter, the one we send every Monday, our weekly to-dos, with our weekly to-dos. Let's see how it goes." And then he goes to the next. He shifts tone a little bit. And this isn't all bold, this first sentence. "A plausibly deny descent into authoritarianism." Mind you, these are the most brainwashed people that these messages are going to. These emails are where the target audience is getting their view of what's going on in America. Not in the news, not any balanced view of events, but from these people. That's why you don't need a ton. You don't need half the population to buy into this. You need a small portion of people in each state to just be completely consumed with what these weirdos are saying. Because that's all you need to go take these direct actions and affect change or cause chaos. "A plausibly deny descent into authoritarianism." And then the email says, "I'm not saying Trump and Musk are systemically creating a paramilitary force to use violence and intimidation to undermine democracy while they sell off the country for parts. But if that was their goal, they sure are taking the right steps." That's the tone they always... Now, with that said, I played this clip last week. I'm going to play it again just to show you the messages that these people who claim to be grassroots get comes directly from the mainstream. It comes directly from the top. The Rachel Maddows who prop them up. Is this the right one? Yeah, here's Maddow saying that... I talked about this on the show last week, but I'm gonna... There's a little bit more to it that I did not play yet. Is that showing yet? It's a lame email, Tony. You're right. I don't even understand how people like. I sign up for that email list just because I want to see what they're doing and try and find good opportunities for man on the street and see their training tactics, which I got to tell you mirrors perfectly Leninist, Bolshevik, activist organizing tactics. It's just modernized, but it's the exact same. Is that right? Okay. So again, with what that email said in mind, here's Rachel Maddow and her guest from last week.
Joining us now is Timothy Snyder, professor of history at Yale University, the author of both On Freedom and On Tyranny. Professor Snyder, I'm really looking forward to speaking to you tonight. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time.
Of course.
One of the things that you warned about in On Tyranny was the marriage of paramilitary force with the state. That you said when a leader essentially can activate not only the power of the state, but also an unofficial paramilitary force that is loyal to him, but that is deniable, that can do things that the government doesn't have to answer for. But that's among the most dangerous situations that an authoritarian can create. Can you elaborate why you think that is, and does that relate to today's commutations and pardons?
So the basic legal function of the police is to allow the law to be enforced. And of course, we make mistakes. Police officers make mistakes. It's imperfect. But that's the logic. The reason why the police are allowed to use violence is that we are governed by law. When you take another group that's not the police, which is not part of the state, which is not governed by law, and say this group can also use violence, then you've changed the nature of the political regime that you're living under. There's maybe still the police, but then there are these other people who aren't the police who may also hurt you or kill you, yes, and they're not governed by law. And then there's a history to this, which is that if these groups are created, if they're allowed, for example, to oversee camps, which we might well see very soon, then they get a habit, they get a taste, they get a certain set of skills, and then they get...
Sorry, I laughed over that a little bit. It's just so ridiculous. Listen to what he says here. He's talking about the pardon Gen 6 people.
See very soon. Then they get a habit, they kill you, and they're not governed by law. And then there's a history to this, which is that if these groups are created, if they're allowed, for example, to oversee camps, which we might well see very soon, then they get a habit, they get a taste, they get a certain set of skills, and then they get more and more interesting for them and more ambitious assignments and become more and more important in the society. So the next step is that you're going to see, I'm afraid, these people be deputized for tasks like deportation, or these people to be regularized, normalized as part of the way that we get used to violence being deployed in our country. And then we're no longer pretending that we're a country of law. And as you already said, the problem with what's already happened is that these people have been instructed now that the law doesn't apply to them in the same way that it applies to everyone else.
Professor Snyder, what would you say to people?
So, yeah, the Q shaman is going to deport people himself. And then he's going to run a camp because he's going to be part of Trump's paramilitary force of pardoned Jan 6ers who will oversee the death camps of all the progressives around the country. That is what this is trying to project to the audience. And it's ridiculous to you and I. I doubt anybody who takes this seriously is watching, but the people who receive those emails I was just reading, they very much take this seriously. This is their worldview. Maddow is the biggest promoter of Indivisible, that group that sends all those emails, and they are the most influential, even if ridiculous, activist group around the country. They have people in every single precinct. They're going to be sending people to your school board meetings with this type of brainwashing propaganda forming their worldview. That is why what the commies are doing at the local level is, in my opinion, probably more dangerous than anything we're seeing opposing what you might like about Trump or what you might like about the Democrat, anything at the national level. Because this is the stuff where we can actually have tangible impact on what happens, and they don't want people paying attention to it. It's a total propaganda clip. You're right. Tony. I've been even impressed. I was telling people last week by Mad Al's ability to take this ridiculousness seriously, but she has to, because people think this is real. She's an actress. This should be a nonfiction show on FX or CW or whatever streaming service, but it's on what's supposedly nonfiction news. They don't differentiate. They don't say these are actors that are full of it. Or people watch this thinking it's real. It's clearly not real. Not to the people who are captured by it, though. I mean, that's really a wild clip. When I first saw it, I laughed because it's a one-time thing. But then I started seeing it, for example, in this email, the same language. And then I saw it again in an article. And then that's when you know that this isn't just a play around, someone being sensational in the moment thing, that this is an actual coordinated messaging theme. Trump is going to turn the Pardon Jan Sixers into a paramilitary force to run the camps. I mean, it's crazy, but it's a message theme that they have agreed upon. Therefore, their minions, who I feel bad for them, because they have nothing else in their life to fill their time, will believe. And the kicker, which is very small, but I didn't play this last time. This is where it really connects to the email, is this next very short clip. This guy, he tells you exactly the purpose of all of this. Second share, there you go.
If you act, especially if you act with other people you admire, who you think are doing good things, you're going to feel better. If you do the little things that you can do, you can catch yourself before you start being dismayed. So it's, and the other thing is, these guys have problems, right?
He's talking about the things that you can do to fight back against this. And they gave a few where he talks about dismaying the fear. And the third one is what you can do is you can act. You can take action, which is exactly what that email that I was reading is building up to. Yes, all this fear, but if you listen to us, the people you admire, as he said in that clip, and that's how they position themselves in all of this propaganda, you can take action like we dictate for you. We'll send you a buddy to the public comment section who will tell you what to say. And this is what all this stuff, this fear is drummed up for, to get people who are, their brains or whatever personal situation their life has put them in that has made them vulnerable to these con artists, to get them to take action thinking it's the only thing they can do to stop this made-up fear that these people have caused them to live their lives in terror of. That's why I feel sorry for many of them. Many of these activists are living their lives in terror that something that there's a 0% chance of happening is definitely going to happen to them. And therefore, they must listen to these con artists and take the action they're told to take by them in order to prevent it. And so here's the final part of that email to really show you how they hammered this stuff home, how the sausage is made here. Where did I get to? It goes on to say, on the jackboot heels of his back-to-back Hitler salutes. I mean, listen to that. On the jackboot heels. Put yourself in the mindset of somebody who believes that the person emailing you is your savior, is your friend, is trying to help you save your life personally and the lives of those you care about because of the, authoritarianism that is upon us. So they believe all of this. On the jackboot heels of his back-to-back Hitler salutes, and on the eve of Holocaust Remembrance Day, our co-president Elon Musk spoke this weekend. Let me get a little smaller. Spoke this weekend at a far-right political rally in Germany, encouraging Germans to, quote, move beyond They put that in quotes. Nazi guilt. Why do they put that in quotes? They don't explain that. They just put it in quotes so that their readers will imply that he has this Nazi alternative agenda. Encouraging Germans to move beyond Nazi guilt, embrace nationalism, and reject multiculturalism that dilutes everything. By the way, all these links you see that are linked in this email, they all go to The Guardian, CNN, Rachel Maddow. None of them go to the actual videos of people that they're referencing in them. It's all circular. This followed Trump's Friday night massacre. The blatant illegal firing of 17 independent watchdogs charged with oversight within the federal government. The same night, the Senate GOP confirmed Pete Hegseth, a theocrat with a drinking problem, to lead the Department of Defense, which now lacks an inspector general. And all of that capped a week that started off with unconstitutional executive orders, threats to violence towards individual opponents, and promises of an aggressive adversarial approach towards these states, towards blue states, excuse me. So this is a summation of the past week that they're giving their brainwashed horde. These 75-year-old grandmothers and a lot of probably younger liberals whose parents have a lot of money so they don't have to do anything. This is what they believe happened in America the past week. It's a small percentage of people. Was it 3% of people they needed for the revolutions? Is that what they say? It's a small percentage of people to radicalize. They don't have to get a lot. So Tony says, could this email possibly be AI written? They have a format that they use, and I think it's possible that they plug stuff in specifically, but the format, so I think they might be able to plug it in to make it match the format they've used for 7 years now, because I've been getting these emails for 7 years now. And then I think they probably edit it. So I do think that they have probably a way to have scaled it to make it a little bit faster. In fact, they actually, if you sign up for some of their stuff, they will send you scripts and they will send you emails that you can use, and then they leave blanks in the places for you to plug in the modern events or the daily events and whatnot. So yes, they do have things that they can plug into. But it's funny, in all the videos they do, they say the exact same thing. So the main host, which is like this cucky guy and this weird-looking girl that is his wife, they say this script verbatim. They do this script verbatim at the beginning of their training sessions, which I've watched many of them. It's very difficult to get through, but they reveal the craziest things in these training sessions because they respond to questions. If they're okay questions. They like block people if they're not okay questions. And finally, they give them basically the solution to all. They've drummed up the fear, and then they say this. So where's the opposition? Where's everybody fighting Trump is the whole idea. And the email says, I can't tell you. So the guy Ezra, I've watched so many videos of him, I kind of know his voice. So I find myself reading this a little bit in his voice, but I can't tell you how many journalists Lee and I have spoken with in the last month about the state of organizing in defiance of Trump 2.0. I tell them all something that looks like this. Indivisible folks are pissed off. They want to see Dems fight back. They don't have time for BS symbolic gestures or actions that don't have impact, and they are seeing a surge of energy. We've had about 250. So the idea here is that the media is leaving you out to dry, is that you're afraid Trump's coming after you, but Indivisible, the group you're in, we are the front line of action, and we're giving you that leader that the guy said in the MSNBC clip that you can follow and mimic yourself after to take action. And guess what? We're the strong, bold ones, regardless of how cucky we are. We've had about 250 new Indivisible groups form and register with us since the election. Local Indivisible leaders, back to the local. which is their focus, are reporting a surge of new membership. Just this weekend, the Indivisible meeting I joined in Chicago and the one Lee joined in North Carolina were packed to the gills with people looking to identify what we can do where we are with what we've got to accomplish together. And then, I'm sorry to go through all this. It's just such a piece of propaganda. It closes out by saying, this is what all of us are organizing with. This is what all of us organizing with Indivisible do. We're not counting on the mainstream media to be a watchdog. We're not counting on viral moments on authoritarian-friendly social media platforms to deliver the outrage to congressional doorsteps. We're informing our neighbors, and this is the local angle that I've been talking about. We're organizing our communities, and we're demanding that our elected officials fight with the same energy we are, or get the hell out of the way. And then they give actions about harassing. So all these clickable links where they're like, we want you to call and you pressure your senators. We want you to fight back with Trump's unconstitutional executive order, that link. All those things, you click on those and it takes you to Google phone call thing or something where you can click on a button and your location notification thing will tell you who the right person to call is, and you can call from your computer, and as you call, it will tell you on screen, there will be like a teleprompter that will tell you exactly what to say, because they have to make it as stupid as possible for people to do it. And down here is another thing they do. So they praise the indivisible groups that do the things that they're told to do. And so then they'll share them on social media. They'll share them in the email. So it's like, oh my gosh, the national group shared me. I feel so good about what I did. And there's all the other, it's just crazy. I don't think I'd focus on this so much if I didn't know that I knew at least 3 or 4 people personally who are 100%, 150% indivisible activist. They don't think that I know, but it's progressive friends of mine who will start saying talking points that I just got in my email from Indivisible. Like, I know exactly where what they're saying comes from. They have no idea. And I watch them, the way they react to things in such a odd way, because a lot of these reactions that they program people with aren't natural. It's a very unnatural reaction to something that otherwise is normal. Like to react to things that the last thing any normal person would think was, oh, that makes you a Nazi. To just call people a Nazi and to project this, just to use terminology like white Christian nationalism just out of nowhere, out of the blue. That doesn't happen with regular people. That happens with people who are programmed, because there'll be an email where it's like, oh, the theme of the week is white Christian nationalism danger. And then 3 days later, a person I know in the theater community starts just randomly talking about white Christian nationalism when they've never mentioned it before. And I'm like, oh, I know where you got that. So clearly, it is sad, Denver. Some of this stuff is effective with a small percentage of people. Yes, you should totally call Grumpy. I made a few videos back in the day where I used their scripts and I kept reading the script they gave me regardless of what the reaction was. And it made no sense to the people, but it made me laugh nevertheless. So keep an eye on local is the whole theme there. Speaking of Elon, wait, the story yesterday it was widely reported by the media yesterday that Elon Musk told an audience of Germans that it's okay to be proud to be a German. And therefore, by him doing this, it proves that Elon is himself a Nazi. Which makes perfect sense, because anyone who tells a group of people not to hate themselves for what their ancestors did is very obviously Hitler reborn. Any kid who comes home from school in Germany nowadays, not feeling sufficiently bad about themselves, should be punished and camped even for displaying a dangerous lack of self-hate. Based on the media, did you imagine the situation, how it must be to be normal in Germany nowadays? What are you doing, son? Did you just walk into this house with a smile on your face? Well, yeah. My teacher, Elon, told me I should be proud of who I am and look to the future with optimism. Shut your stupid mouth. Because they must be bumpkin rednecks. Shut your stupid mouth. What if the neighbors hear you? We didn't raise you to feel proud of who you are in this family, okay? You get up to your room, you ingrate, and you don't come back down here until your German mama and I can see clearly on your face that you hate yourself. More than your brother who killed himself did, okay? Like the way the media has reported this whole Elon speaking at this virtual political rally, that's what you would think. There's a lot of things to worry about with Elon, okay? Him being a Nazi is not one of them. And the full backstory on that is that he spoke virtually at this event for the German Alternative for Germany, AfD party, where he told the crowd that it's okay to be proud to be a German. God forbid. And basically that they shouldn't continue to have to hate themselves for what their ancestors did. And the best way the media covered this, I think, is summed up in this clip to me. This is Aaron Andrews. Not Aaron Andrews. That's the sports. That's a very attractive sports broadcaster. This is Aaron Burnett of CNN. See if you notice what I noticed in this clip. How they can just bend reality with such a straight face is impressive.
When Musk goes and speaks in front of a group like this, a group that he's endorsed, AfD, right, and it is the right-wing group, and tells them it's proud to be German, it's okay to be proud to be German.
I'll start it from the beginning again, but just in her question there, is that double speed now? That's how she's talking. In her very question, it implies he's telling him it's proud to be German. What's wrong with him? And this is a German guy she's talking to, by the way, which obviously he's going to respond by saying, yeah, I hate myself. You should never tell any German is proud to be German. You should tell Germans to kill themselves. Kill yourselves. Yay! Vote kill yourselves. Let's see if this is what this guy does.
When Musk goes and speaks in front of a group like this, a group that he's endorsed, AfD, right, and it is the right-wing group, and tells them it's proud to be German, it's okay to be proud to be German. I mean, it almost sounds ridiculous to say, does he not know what he's doing? I mean, is there any question in your mind that he understands the significance and the importance of exactly what he was saying to that group?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Elon is certainly somebody who knows what he's doing. And once again, I'm proud to be German too, because I'm proud of what Germany's become.
Right,
okay?
absolutely.
But I don't understand what nationalism or what we call white supremacy is somehow being proud to be German. In fact, being proud to be German is exactly what Germany's become. And it's a wonderful country today. So it's a democracy and people can have different views. But I think what
I don't know. This guy's got some, clothes clamps on his balls. He's a little high-pitchy. Like I said, there's a lot to worry about with Elon Musk. Him being a Nazi is not one of them. And you can see how convoluted this whole thing is. The whole premise. Does he even understand what telling this right-wing party, which the media all says is a right-wing extremist party, yet that party, I imagine they get called that because they're not progressive. That party wholly rejects this definition given to them by the media, like so many others who the media has defined wrongly. But telling them to be proud to be what they are is awful and Nazi unless this guy says it. So this guy's like, yeah, I'm proud to be German, not Nazi. It's only them. It's only if Elon Musk says it. It's just, it's crazy how they do backflips here. And this was every single news channel I watched this on. And people who get those same emails I just went through are going to get, as we saw, they discussed this in the email, are going to believe that if certain people say that you should be proud of what you are, then you're a Nazi. But if somebody else says it that we like, then it's perfectly fine. And this guy, by the way, is a billionaire investor. He's either he's worth $100 million or he's a billionaire, depending on who you look. And he's a German, proud to be German. His name is Gerber. Ross Gerber, baby, is what that high-pitched voice makes me think he is. It's just this, it doesn't surprise me. Probably none of you either, but when you have the narrative that is one thing, you take any story and you can just flip it on its. It's so crazy to portray something in that way. And every clip they showed of it, by the way, was like 3 seconds and cut off in the middle. I couldn't even find a full video of it. Yes, Gerber baby still. I like the food. He's like, what was that woman's name who was the original Gerber baby? She's an actress. Grew up to be a very pretty actress. She's probably in her 70s or 80s now. But yeah, he's like the Gerber baby. Elon's just expanded his factory in Germany under question. Yeah, I believe that. Totally believe that. I don't believe he's a Nazi. He's a lot of things. I don't think he's a Nazi. But that's what they're going with. So, all right, moving on from that. That's it. Okay, so the China Lab Leak story, which is really what I wanted to talk about mostly today. 48 minutes in, here we are. You guys probably saw the story about how CIA, it was published, this report, which was done during the Biden administration, but didn't officially get published. It was classified during his administration, but on Trump's orders, they say the new CIA head, Ratcliffe, which that's a great name for a CIA head to have a rat at the beginning of it, published it this past Saturday. And this report, in it, the CIA found that the coronavirus, COVID, whatever, came from a lab in Wuhan. That's what they think. It's with low confidence, of course. Low confidence. Because whenever I'm reading something, a report about what the CIA, their opinion, if they say, well, we have high confidence versus we have low confidence, I say, okay, well, that makes me feel better. That's the one thing about the CIA. As long as it's high confidence, you got me. Low confidence, I'm not so sure. I don't care what the confidence is with the CIA. They're the CIA. Nevertheless, this is the narrative. And here's some of the, I'll tell you what I believe this actually is, which it's not something, everybody's celebrating this. I said this would happen 4 years ago. Not that it came from a lab. I said 4 years ago, and I've said a dozen times since then, that I don't know what it is. I don't know where it came from, But what will happen is they will eventually tell us that it came from the Wuhan lab in China. That will eventually be the official narrative, because that is what fits the war with China, Great Reset narrative the most. That is eventually what they will say it is. I'll find a clip. I said it a dozen times in 4 years. The article says, which I think supports that, Senator Tom Cotton, chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, told Fox News this Sunday that it was important now to make China pay for unleashing this plague on the world. He mentioned doing tariffs or passing legislation that would repeal China's permanent most favored nation status. Chris Calizzo, the former CNN propagandist who has 500,000 paid-for followers on X, he even said, I screwed up. Back in May of 2020, I wrote how Anthony Fauci had crushed Donald Trump's lab leak theory for how COVID-19 originated. He then went on to say in his way too long thread that it appears that what he described as a reality TV star turned president, that he was right, Trump, and Anthony Fauci was wrong. And as I said, this is one of the things I've never wavered on in 5 years, is that they would eventually say that this was it, because just like the UAPs and just like the drones, the whole idea is to serve the conflict with China narrative that has been at the core of the Great Reset since it began. I just read the Great Reset stuff. I just watched the videos from the World Economic Forum. This was obvious to me a long time ago. I know it's something to celebrate. Yeah, well, maybe not. I mean, do we want to go to war with China? I'd rather not. The drones, which they've turned the drone narrative and the UAP narrative and all that bullshit, the cyber, they've turned it all in the direction of China. As soon as that stuff came out, I said the same thing. All of it is designed to create the filter that China has exceeded us in technological advancements, especially when it comes to warfighting capability. And that once we have this realization, holy shit, we thought it was aliens, but it's actually China. Oh my God. You mean the same country that we just found out unleashed the China virus on? What will they unleash on us next? We better amp up our warfighting spending. We better amp up our AI infrastructure spending. Which leads right into another story that fits right into the same theme. Look, they've been a lot of focus on how scary China is lately, okay? This stuff isn't new. They didn't just all of a sudden go, holy shit, China. Oh, boy. I mean, this is all constructed. This is all something that is, it's like you have a content calendar. You put all the stuff on the content calendar. Well, at the beginning of 2025, China. But it was very subtle build over the past 4 or 5 years. Not so subtle sometimes. But the DeepSeek story. DeepSeek, which is a Chinese startup that apparently demonstrated the ability to run a chat GPT-style AI model at a fraction of the cost that the tech companies over here, like NVIDIA, spent to run all of our AI stuff. And this ultimately, once this was discovered, caused the tech stocks to slide in a historic fashion, actually. And NVIDIA lost over $500 billion in market value. So I guess we just discovered that, what's this thing called? That DeepSeek AI, it can do bad limericks at a fraction of the cost. And everybody freaked out in the market. Which it should be pointed out, which none of the news actually points out, something that's buried in the bottom of all of these stories, is that this market freakout that allegedly happened as a response to this revelation is based on no more evidence than the word of this Chinese company, DeepSeek. That's it. Like, we're told we shouldn't believe China ever, but we should believe China when they say that they have destroyed American dominance in AI. Really, we should believe them then Oh, yeah. Oh, you want some more money for AI spending? Here you go. Okay. That's it. The entire market freakout is based on nothing more than the word of this company, this Chinese company. And here's what the AP said about it. It says this stunning achievement, this relatively unknown AI startup becomes even more shocking when considering that the United States for years has worked to restrict the supply of high-powered AI chips to China, citing national security concerns. That means DeepSeek. That sounds like a pornography website, to be honest with you. It says they were able to achieve its low-cost model on underpowered AI chips, so they don't even need us. They don't even need us. We don't know how their AI-powered chips work, and we don't know how their flying crafts that defy all physics work. And they released the China virus. More fear, China fear, based on little evidence. And I know I'm not a fan of communists, okay? I'm not, not up here saying I'm obviously not a fan of communists. I started the show by warning everybody about how the communists are taking over your towns through the school boards, and I showed you. But none of this stuff is new. This is all very narrative. It's rolled out in almost an insulting way, to be honest with you. Be a little more subtle to me about the fact you want me to be afraid of China. China. Look how, see the UAP narrative and all that, the drones, which has definitely already shifted strongly towards China, did it. Starting mainly, well, it didn't start here. I pointed out where they've been shifting it that way for the past 2 years, but really over the top with that guy who blew himself up inside the Cybertruck. The guy who basically, if you read what he said in this email he sent, we assume that he sent it, taking all of that at face value. He basically said that David Grush whistleblower about the UAPs, I would rather blow my brains out than sound like him. And then he went on and did it. And that's actually what he said almost, because he said, everybody sounds crazy like these whistleblowers, so I need to send a message. And so he went and blew his brains out, allegedly, in a Cybertruck in front of Trump Tower. It all makes perfect sense. And part of this letter was about how all of the tech was from China. It's like a puzzle for retards. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope Trump is not Woodrow Wilson reincarnated. I really do. I hope it does. And I don't even know what the war would look like if there were a conflict with China. I mean, I imagine it would probably be drone-based, AI drone-based even. That it would be cyber-based in a lot of ways. All the ways that we're being told, because the demonstration of the drones that we don't know what they are, and the demonstration of the AI. So it's like the reveal is China. Holy shit, they're so far ahead of us. Amp up the war spending. Because that's the justification of focusing all of our efforts on that. And tax money and whatever the fuck else. What happened to saying it's China was... Right, it's no longer racist, Grumpy. It's no longer racist to say it was China. It's now American to say it was China. It's racist and white nationalist. Which I don't even think I got to that part about that CNN comment where the guy said that, what is it that he said? He said that nationalism, or as we call it, white nationalism? Or white supremacy? Is that what you think? You think people like that German guy with Aaron Burnett, when he said, well, nationalism, or as we know it, white supremacy, you think that's what people who say the word nationalist, they say, I'm a nationalist. You think in their head they're actually saying, I'm a white supremacist? I don't think it is. I don't think that anybody really who says that. Well, they create these definitions of words that are so convoluted, and then they just project them onto everybody who uses that word, and they treat them as though they, in their heads, are using the same convoluted, made-up definition that the media is, and they put them on a hate list for it. Not to get off track. But no longer, you can call it the China virus, because it's the China virus. And you are no longer racist, nor are you nationalistic. You are patriotic. You might even be a Democrat if you say that. And a Republican, because that's where they can unite. War with China is where the Democrats and Republicans in Congress will unite. That is why I knew all along that Pete Hegseth was going to get confirmed. There was never any doubt that he wasn't. Because look, if you want somebody to be the Secretary of War, he's probably a good guy to do it. I don't care how many wives he's had or how many children of his. You show this picture of him with 7 children. They aren't his kids, half of them. People, like, they don't even, who cares? Doesn't matter. I'm not judging for that. The guy was the right guy to pick if you really want. I think we should be. I think a country, it is good to be Superman. You want to be Superman, somebody messes with you. You don't want to be Superman so you can just go mess people up, in my opinion. And I hope that that's not what we're doing. Truly, I really hope that that's not what we're doing. Prove your doubters wrong, Trump. This is what I'm saying. Prove your doubters wrong. Do not let us get into world war. Because everything seems that way. Every single propaganda book from 100 years ago describes what we are experiencing right now. Hey, moving on. Moving on that positive note this morning. Jim Acosta. Everybody loves Jim Acosta of CNN. Sure. He has announced, or it's been announced. I don't know if he announced it, but he's going to be departing from CNN, amid the network restructuring, which coincides with these broader CNN programming strategy that they're implementing, or more accurately, the broader Mockingbird Media's changing strategy, which involves capturing and propagandizing podcast audiences instead. So, while Acosta will be leaving CNN, I can assure you that you will have a Jim Acosta podcast incoming very soon to your podcast app and a YouTube channel near you, where Jim will trade out his suit and tie for a tight, dark-colored T-shirt and a pair of jeans, and he'll trade out his highly produced CNN set for an intentionally lower-produced, more casual-looking home studio set. And where Jim himself will appear to be a lot less of a radical leftist, and he will even occasionally say correct things on his new show, things that, because of how out of character for him they are, will get him widely shared on X with comments like, Acosta nails it for once, and whoa, Acosta gets it, wild. Stuff like that. It's all a con. It's all a con. There's a 0 chance that Jim Acosta doesn't start a new podcast in the model of Chris Cuomo I'd be surprised if it didn't happen in a month, honestly. But a couple months, no doubt. He might take off 8 weeks or so to masturbate in front of, Jeffrey Toobin or something. A little vacation. And I think it's important that when this inevitably happens, that we don't reward him for saying so many of the things that so many other people said years and years before him from day one. And that we remember when we see him or other people make this transition into the Mockingbird Media's podcast capture of 2025 attempt, what the Davos 2024 and 2025 main themes were: rebuilding trust. And the rebuilding of trust comes in the transformation of these mainstream media assets into podcast hosts that are no longer as radical seeming as they were when they were on the big networks. That's what all this shit is. People are like, yeah, CNN, they're losing. No, they're just transitioning these people. Not to different genders, maybe that also, but I think probably not, because they're scaling back from that as well. I think we should come up with a name for them. Maybe. Stellus is stamping out nationalism as a communist play. Yeah, it is. Anyone who pays attention to the historical playbook. Absolutely. Oh, no, not Jim, says Grumpy. Yeah, we should come up with a name for him, for his podcast. Sir Tim of Tunnels, I put that question on Twitter. I haven't looked to see the responses since. But Sir Tim of Tunnels, he said, Acosta Unfettered, brought to you by Pfizer. That's a good name. I think a good name for his new podcast. You can't be the Chris Cuomo Project or the Jim Acosta Project, because Chris Cuomo already did that, so he's got to do something different. I think his podcast should be the Inside of Anderson Cooper podcast, or the Inside Anderson Cooper podcast with Jim Acosta. Brought to you by Blue Chew. I think that would be fitting. One more story, a little more lighthearted here. And then we're getting out of here this morning. Welcome to the Inside Anderson Cooper podcast with Jim Acosta. Brought to you by Blue Chew. Of course, having all those girls with their breast out wouldn't be appropriate. They'd have to be, I guess, guys with giant balls that they're showing, and it's to change up the ads for him a little bit. Finally, from the smoking gun, I love the smoking gun. If you're ever down, just pull up the smoking gun, and you'll probably feel better about what's going on. Headline from the smoking gun. Even in Key West, you'll get arrested for having sex on a public sidewalk. Even in Key West. The article says even in Key West, where some louche behavior is tolerated, I'd say so, you are going to get arrested for having sex at 4:20 a.m. on the sidewalk adjacent to the main road through town. I don't know that that's necessarily 100% true. Key West is a place, if you've never been there, that's known for, among other things, the disgusting nude holiday parade that they have every year called Fantasy Fest, where I haven't been to it, but if it is anything like the nude bars, then it's anything but a fantasy. I made the mistake in college and spring break one year of going to one of the nude bars in Key West. I was fully clothed. Okay, I was just checking. I was naive and young, going, maybe the hot chicks go to this nude bar, which I can assure you that does not happen ever. I go in the nude bar and I sit down at the bar. Nobody around me at the time. Probably middle of the afternoon, definitely day. Only to shortly thereafter be flanked on both bar stools to my left and right by what appeared to be 2 300-pound truckers, just butt naked, having a beer at 3:30 in the afternoon. Like it was the most normal thing ever. They didn't even know what was happening. It was such a normal activity for them. I was sitting there trying to figure out how to get out. That, to me, I think is a more offensive situation than passing by a couple who's happened to bang it out at 4:20 a.m. in Key West. It just seems a bit much to arrest somebody for what seems to be common behavior in such a degenerate place. The article goes on to say that early Tuesday morning, make that a little bigger for you guys. There we go. Early Tuesday morning, cops were driving on a 2-lane stretch of U.S. Route 1 when they spotted a woman bent over in front of a man who was thrusting his hips back and forth. Well, that would be how it works. While the couple was situated in front of a pet grooming business. Okay. Maybe they're voyeurs who can only get off if they're being watched by other people's pets. Article continues. The two subjects continued intercourse until I activated my emergency lights, reported Officer Bryce Sunnykchin. So, reading the official police report, it appears that he drove by the bent over, hip thrusting back and forth incident, and they kept going as though he had an expectation that they would stop. Why would they stop if a cop drives by and doesn't turn his lights on? They're probably doing it, and they're probably like, oh, I told you it was legal here. Cop didn't even care. So he had to swing it back around, pop his lights on to stop the hip thrusting in front of the pet store. And then the article says, in the glow of the cruiser's cherry top, that's an interesting choice of words, William Ginott, as you can see here on the left. Look at that girl. Look at that lady. She doesn't care at all. In the photos here, the mugshots. William Ginott, 41, put his penis back in his pants. That would be the place to put it back into when the police lights go on. While Dana Clausen, 38, seen here, pictured with a smile on her face, reportedly was disheveled with her bodysuit undone. So she had a skirt and a bodysuit on. Very interesting. What's up, Podunk? What's up, Stoner? Grooming pets. Yeah, cough. Right, yeah, it should be. Aren't we back? Isn't America back? Can't you have sex in Key West again? I mean, Trump won. People should be able to have sex on the street in Key West. Jennett and Clausen, Jennett being the guy and Clausen being the girl, were subsequently arrested for committing lascivious acts with another person in a public place. The duo was booked into the Monroe County Jail on the misdemeanor charge and later released. So they just got a misdemeanor. That's it. You do it again the next night. That's it. You get in front of the pet store. You hope, the best Bernese Mountain Dogs that really turn you on are right there in front of the window with a fresh haircut and a nail trim, and you really get horny. That's it. Because what's a misdemeanor? When they're just offering this place to go fornicate in front of that's so sexy. The article continues. Okay, look, these people, this photo, if you're just listening, they're unconcerned with what they did. I'm surprised they stopped at all, honestly. I'm surprised the officers did not to pry these two off of each other. With that look on their face, there's no shame. Why would there be shame? They got to be watched by their favorite Cocker Spaniels. While court and police records, they were released like hours later. I didn't spend hardly a full night in jail. While court and police records list Jennison's address as a Whitehall, Michigan residence. Interesting. He recently began a job with a Key West yacht company. So he just came to the area. To the area, not on the area. This is according to a Facebook post he made. Clausen, the woman, already lived there. She worked or continues to work as a server at a Key West restaurant, and she lives in nearby Stock Island. And she's also a licensed esthetician, as well as you can see here, and I'm not making this up, also a licensed facial expert or specialist. Excuse me, a facial specialist. So, I don't know what this, I mean, this just, I don't know why these people were arrested. This is as American as it gets right here. I think they should sue the police department, personally, and the entire city of Key West. They had to stop. They didn't get to finish. This is clearly a love story, is it not? A northern Midwestern man from Michigan decides to leave it all behind, move across the country to the southernmost point of America to start all over only to find the one thing he never could at home when he got there. A facial specialist he could bang in public. If that's not the American dream, I don't know what is. Maybe we are back. That's the show for this morning, guys. Even though it was a bit dirty, scaled it back on the swearing, if that's anything. Thank you guys for hanging out in the chats and for all the great comments and links. I appreciate it. And we will do it again later this evening between 8:30 and 9. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day, rest of your evening, depending on where you are, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Later.